You're listening to The Bible Guys, a podcast where a couple of friends talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Hey everybody, welcome to The Bible Guys. My name is Chris, this is Jeff, and we are here.
We made it.
That's it. We don't have anything else to declare other than we are here.
That is true.
Well, today, Jeff, we're going to start out by, Desiree actually pulled a few comments from our social media.
Oh, these are great. I didn't get to see this yet.
So getting to hear our listeners, what is it? Getting to hear from our listeners warms our hearts so much. So let's give a couple of them a shout out.
There you go. Way to read that heartfelt statement. You're literally our heartfelt statement. My name is Chris. You're literally like this, Chris. You're like, my name is Chris Zarba, and I want to say thank you.
Do you remember Wayne's World where he goes off and he goes, I never learned how to read? That was me in that moment right there. Oh, it's so funny.
So after that heartfelt thank you to these fine folks.
I couldn't get it out.
Let's read a couple of these.
Go ahead.
Renee B. Hi, Renee.
Hey, Renee.
We are so glad that you wrote in. You say, I love your show. Oh, thanks. My only complaint...
Uh-oh.
What? My only complaint is that I'm sure people think I'm a little loopy based on the big grin on my face as I listen. Keep up the great work.
Aw. That's really nice.
Well, Renee, we're sure they don't think that you're loopy just because of the big grin on your face.
And what is loopy?
Goofy.
Goofy, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Like a little out of her mind.
Yeah, well, loopy, I would think like loopy is more like you're sort of in a trance, almost like you take medicine and it makes you loopy.
A little loopy. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Okay, well, this next one is from Lucia C. Thank you, Lucia, for writing in. She says, I appreciate the down-to-earth discussions and wanted you both to know that I look forward to listening to you every morning. Also, I just need Chris to know that I now sing good morning to my coworkers every day at the office. Not sure how it happened, but thanks a lot, Chris. That is so funny. That's so funny. Thanks, Lucia.
Oh, that's great.
That's really funny.
So be careful. Lucia, why don't you stop at that point and don't adopt anything else Chris says or does.
so at Lucia's workplace, they think she's a little loopy.
Yeah. Now they think she's crazy. Okay.
And it comes from Singing in the Rain, by the way.
There you go.
There it is.
And then Lynn says, wanted to reach out because I'm new to listening to your podcast. Hey, well, welcome, Lynn.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We're so glad. I really love how you guys talk about the Bible. This podcast is literal gold. Literal. You love the use of literal in that way, don't you?
I have a thing about literal. I have a thing about it. It's not literally gold.
Well, hey, be careful. Lynn is new.
Lynn is new.
So be nice to Lynn.
Oh, I wasn't busting on Lynn. I was just busting on the word literal.
Well, I think it is a little literal gold, Lynn. So I think you're right. It says, I've been sharing your podcast with all my friends and family. Jeff and Chris work so well together. Their personalities complement each other so well. Actually, I'm not sure that's true, Lynn. I'm mostly carrying Chris most of the time.
That's true.
That's not true. You're supposed to argue with me just a little bit on that one.
Okay, all right.
I absolutely love you guys. This podcast always makes my day. Oh, well, that's nice. This is amazing. It's amazing.
I think we both carried each other and took turns. We'd fall apart with our knees and our backs.
That's exactly right.
So that's wonderful. Thank you, Lynn. And by the way, I'm not even kidding when I say this. I'm absolutely 100% serious. We're both busy guys. In fact, people don't even know this, but you literally this is actually where you can use literally. Mm-hmm. You literally just landed last night after flying how many hours?
24,600 miles.
And that doesn't count the number of miles you drove?
Oh, you're right. Right. That's right.
Right, which means you probably drove and flew the distance where somebody would circle the globe.
All the way around the world. Yeah.
Oh,
definitely. We drove about 500 or 600 miles into Tanzania on a part of that trip. So yeah, it was definitely 25,000 miles or more.
Yeah, and that's how much distance around the world, right?
Right.
So that is just crazy. And so all that to say, you're super busy. I'm super busy.
I got home last night and went straight to a birthday party. My grandson's 5-year-old birthday
party. And you're
party.
Here today.
Yeah, here we are.
In the morning.
Yeah.
And so
you want to talk about loopy? Let's go back to that one. I'm feeling it today.
Hey, this might be the good time for you to talk about Haggai, loopy.
Oh, yeah. Yesterday, if you were listening on the podcast, I said, I mentioned Haggai.
Yes.
And I meant to say Hosea. As soon as we were done with the podcast,
yes,
you went, was it Haggai?
Right.
I was like, no, it was Hosea. And I didn't even realize I said Haggai. So I knew all along it was
right,
Hosea.
You were thinking Hosea.
Right, but I said
Hosea
Haggai.
and Gomer.
Yep.
And the funny thing is, the weird part is that I had a brain like... Bzz, I had
a brain what?
I was going to say a brain fart. Where I just...
We're sorry for that language,
I couldn't
ladies.
come up with Hosea. And I knew Gomer. I was like, Gomer and Gomer. And when you were talking about Haggai, I was thinking, Gomer pal. So anyway, the bottom line is this is a thought that went into a thought. My original thought was, even though that we're really busy, we come in to record. I think, I got to do this recording, which we do 5 days in a row. It takes like 4 hours. But the only thing that keeps me going is because people say things like this.
Yeah.
They say, man, I really appreciate it. It really helps me. I enjoy it and I'm learning. And I think to myself, well, geez, then we better keep on making time for this.
Yeah.
Right.
We were talking to a mutual friend a while back, right? And we were just saying, we can't believe people keep listening. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just, I can't believe people keep listening and they say so many nice things.
Yeah.
And it's inspiring. It makes us want to keep going.
Yeah.
And we're coming up on almost by the end of the week. I think the last episode of this week is 450.
450 episodes.
Yeah. 450
that's
of these
a lot.
episodes together.
And how many HC Daily episodes do we have?
There were like 170 of those. So we're over 600 episodes together.
Yeah, wow.
Doing podcast stuff. So it's a lot of fun. Hey, when you do 600 of anything together, it's, you better like each other.
Right. For sure. All right. Well, listen, hey, we're going to dive into Job chapter 28. And this whole entire thing, Job is just working it out, isn't he?
He is.
He's working it out. He has thoughts left and right. He is trying to figure out what is happening to him. And by the way, we didn't talk about this yesterday, but picture this in a pile of ashes. Isn't he still in a pile of ashes?
He's sitting there in sackcloth. Basically, he's wearing like a grain sack.
Yeah.
And sitting in ashes. And you're right. Yeah.
And the reason why, by the way, is because, and I've always thought about this. Was he in ashes because it was the softest thing that existed, or was he in ashes because it was symbolic, like tearing your clothes?
Well, I know it's symbolic.
Yeah.
But it might also been just that it was make the boils because he was covered in boils, right?
Covered in boils. He was
maybe
scraping
dry it out.
Scraping his boil. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Drying it out. Mm-hmm. He was scraping the boils off with broken pottery because not only had he had everything taken from him, his oxen and his donkeys and his servants and all his livelihood, and then his family, and everything was just taken away. But then the next phase 2, was an attack on his physical body. And then he was covered with boils. So he's laying there in ashes, talking to his wife, talking to his friends, and then, just working out his emotions of what is happening. Is God to blame? How should I react? And by the way, I said this once last week, but what's encouraging about this is never once has Job considered taking his own life.
His wife suggested it.
You're right. Curse God and die.
Curse God and die.
Curse God and die. Yeah. But no, never once did he ever, he didn't. And thank goodness that he didn't. You know why? Because right around the corner are blessings upon blessings.
Yeah.
And so when things are the absolute worst and you feel like there's no hope and there's nothing worth living for, just hang on to hope, just knowing that you never know what's around the corner.
Yeah. So we are just going at a extremely brisk pace through this book. We're going to read Job 20. What chapter are we reading?
28. All of 28.
Yeah. We're reading 28. But if you go back just a few chapters here, he talks about at one point, God knows where I'm going, and when he tests me, I'm going to come out as gold. Remember how we talked about he's up and down. Why are you guys being mean to me? Why is God being mean to me? Mm-hmm. Hey, you know what? God's testing me, and I'm going to come out of this fire, and I'm going to be like pure gold. And then he goes back to the next chapter, 24. He's like, how come, isn't God paying attention? How come God doesn't go judge wicked people? So Job's recognizing, I've done the best I can. I'm a good person.
Right.
And he was, even God recognized. Job did not know that God was proud of how good Job was. Mm-hmm. Right? Not at this point. But he's like, in chapter 24, he's like, I'm a good guy. Why isn't God going around judging bad people? In the whole chapter is him going, are you not paying attention to the bad people? I got pulled over one time for doing 3 miles an hour over the speed limit.
I hate that.
Right?
I hate that. I've had that happen once too.
Now, speed limit was 3 miles below an hour, below what I was going.
The law is the law.
And when he walked up, he said, you know how fast you're going? And I said, 58. And it was a 55. He goes, that's right. And he was going to write me a ticket. Right? And I'm like, are you serious? You're going to write me a ticket for 3 over? And he goes, well, I can. You know, I have the right to write you a ticket. And I said, really? Of all the things happening in this city, the single most important thing for you to do is write me a ticket for 3 miles over? And he goes, 3 miles and over is against the law. And he wrote me the ticket then. So as I thought about it later, he was going to let me off. But then I got mad and challenged to go, of all the bad things happening in this city, the single most important thing was that I was doing 58 and a 55.
Right.
Dude, go arrest a bad guy. This is kind of his, no, I had a bad attitude. But in this situation, Job is fairly justified. Saying,
very, very justified.
Come on, God, are you paying attention? All the wicked people are prospering, and here I am miserable, and I think it's your fault. You're doing this to me. And so he goes through all these conversations with everybody going, I know my life. I know what I've tried to do. By the time you get to chapter 27, he literally says, I'm going to maintain my innocence without wavering. My conscience is clear as long as I live. Right? He said, I'm not bending on this. And he's talking to his friends at this point. I'm not bending on this. My conscience is clear, and I just don't understand it. But I still believe I'm going to come out like gold, right?
Hey, by the way, before we dive into it, to all the police officer listeners out there,
don't pull me over for 3 miles.
I drove all the way to North Carolina, North Carolina, and drove like 14 hours. And it was 4 a.m, and I had 3 kids sleeping in the back with blankets, like tiny little kids. And I was a mile from the house. And that particular section was 25 miles an hour. Okay. He pulled me over for like 28, just almost the same scenario at 4 a.m. And I said, sir, I didn't know it was 25. I'm falling asleep as I'm driving. Right. I just drove 14 hours to get to this vacation spot, and he gave me a ticket.
Did he really?
He did.
Wow.
Just merciless.
Yep.
And
I got a ticket for running a yellow light one time. Failure to yield amber. That's the judge threw it out. He goes, where's the officer? And I said, he's not here. He said, I wouldn't have showed up for this one either. And he just dismissed it. Sometimes, but hey, thank God for the police officers. I'm complaining about 2 times, and I was only saying it from Job's perspective.
Yes.
So if we complain every once in a while about getting a ticket we don't feel like we deserve, Job was complaining that God wasn't paying attention to the bad guys.
Right.
Right. So that's all we were doing there. Right. The reality is, I feel like when I get a ticket, I just go ahead and pay it, usually because there's a lot of times I didn't get a ticket. Right.
I mean, I deserve this one.
Yeah,
but I deserved 100,000 of them.
Right.
And I didn't get them.
So anyways, that brings us up to this point where he goes, I will maintain my innocence without wavering, and my conscience is clear for as long as I live. And then from this point on, this is his big last speech, his big last prayer kind of thing as he's going through this. And he's going to talk about the technology of the day. And I'm just going to blast through this whole chapter because I think it's interesting. He goes,
and by the way, he's talking about wisdom. Where does wisdom come from?
Yeah, he gets to wisdom. Yeah. But he's talking about how wise people are. Right. And then he goes, God's wisdom is beyond it, is where he's going to go with this chapter. So if you're wondering what it's about, that's what he's talking about. So you remember, this is Iron Age, or right at the beginning of that. So mining was a big deal then, right? That was cutting edge technology. He says, people know where to mine silver and how to refine gold. They know where to dig iron from the earth and how to smelt copper from rock. And they know how to shine light in the darkness and explore the farthest regions of the earth as they search in the dark for ore. They sink a mine shaft into the earth far from where anyone lives, and they descend on ropes, swinging back and forth, and food is grown on the earth above, but down below the earth is smelted as by fire. Here the rocks contain precious lapis lazuli, and the dust contains gold. These are treasures no bird of prey can see, no falcon's eye can observe. No wild animal has walked upon these treasures. No lion has ever set his paw there. People know how to tear apart flinty rocks and overturn the roots of mountains. They cut tunnels in the rocks and uncover the precious stones, and they dam up the trickling streams and bring to light the hidden treasures. But do people know where to find wisdom? Where can they find understanding? No one knows where to find it, for it's not found among the living. It is not here, says the ocean, nor is it here, says the sea. It cannot be bought with gold. It cannot be purchased with silver. It's worth more than all the gold of Ophir, greater than precious onyx or lapis lazuli. Wisdom is more valuable than gold and crystal. It cannot be purchased with jewels mounted in fine gold. Coral and jasper are worthless in trying to get it. The price of wisdom is far above rubies. That's a common phrase in the book of Proverbs, by the way.
Yep.
Precious peridot from Ethiopia cannot be exchanged for it. It's worth more than the purest gold. But do people know where to find wisdom? Where can they find understanding? It's hidden from the eyes of all humanity. Even the sharp-eyed birds in the sky cannot discover it. Destruction and death say, we've heard only rumors of where wisdom can be found. Oh, God alone understands the way to wisdom. He knows where it can be found, for he looks throughout the whole earth, sees everything under the heavens. He decided how hard the winds should blow and how much rain should fall. He made the laws for the rain and laid out a path for the lightning. And then he saw wisdom and evaluated it. He set it in place and examined it thoroughly. And this is what he says to all humanity. The fear of the Lord is true wisdom. To forsake evil is real understanding.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You know, what a conclusion, right? So he starts out talking about we are people who know how to find things.
Right.
And we find things that even animals can't find. And yet when it comes to finding wisdom, we can't find it.
Yeah.
Right. And then he goes on to talk about where is it and how valuable it is, and then concludes that only God knows the path to wisdom and is the source of wisdom, right? And then he says, the fear of the Lord is true wisdom. That one comment, the fear of the Lord is wisdom. There's a Life Application Study Bible note, and it says, the fear of the Lord is a key theme in the wisdom literature of the Bible, like Job or Psalms or Proverbs, like Ecclesiastes and the Song of Solomon, which, by the way, are all
Wisdom books
written by all by Solomon. Except for one, right?
Psalms and Job were not, but Proverbs.
Psalms is David, mostly David. Yeah, my bad.
And but Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song
that's right.
of Solomon.
That's right. So it says it means to have respect and reverence for God and to be in awe of His majesty and power. This is the starting point to finding real wisdom. And in Proverbs chapter 1, 7 through 9, it actually lays out and says that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of all wisdom. Mm-hmm. And it actually says this is the purpose of the book. It lays it out that way.
Yeah.
It's right here.
Oh, good. You got it.
Yep. Proverbs 1, 7 through 9. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and destruction. And then it goes on to say, listen, my son, to your father's instructions. Do not forsake your mother's teaching. But the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge or wisdom. This is written by the wisest man who ever lived. And then he talks about the value of it. And he says, wisdom is more valuable than anything that you could possibly have. Written from a man who had everything.
Yeah.
There was nothing that he did not have.
Yeah. So I think this is what he's highlighting here is why he made it through this test so well. Mm-hmm. This is what I think he's doing, is he does fear God. And he does believe that God is in control. And he recognizes, at the end here, he's talking about how God made laws for rain, lays out the path of lightning. He determined when the wind would blow and when the rain is going to fall. And throughout the whole earth, God set laws up. There's all these laws of nature. And he said, look how wise God is, that he could assemble the laws of nature. And then he said, we feel pretty wise. We can go find gems and we know how to plant, food, and that lapis lazuli, for instance, was a gem. It's really deep blue. Have you ever seen one? They're really deep blue. They've been mining them in Afghanistan for 6,000 years, right? Stunningly beautiful. You got all these different gems that he mentions, gold and silver. And, we spend a lot of our life and we develop wisdom with regard to, or smarts. Let's say street smarts to make money, to build wealth. We develop technologies to hopefully make our lives a little bit better. But that doesn't make us wise. I was in a meeting a couple days ago about the use of, I've had 2 meetings about this recently, about the use of AI, artificial intelligence, in ministry, right? And one of the conclusions, we were talking about is, hey, if you use it as a research assistant, fantastic. This is really good. I used to have, I still do, thousands of books. And I'd have to go through and find them, and I'd make markings. And for a little while in my life, I was actually keeping a catalog of all my best ideas that I found in different books where I could find them, And my plan always was to put together like a digital index, and I never did. But now I can, with AI, there's different ministry AIs out there that I can search all of the books plus 10,000 times more, all that knowledge in seconds, that I can go find the information that But that doesn't make me a better human just because I can find information faster. It might make me lazier.
Right.
So we have to be careful not to get lazy and just believe everything that shows up on a screen. That's one. The other one is AI doesn't have a soul. There's no soul to it. So it can't really give spiritual.
Not yet.
Yeah. It can't really give spiritual insight. It doesn't have wisdom. It has information. There's a big difference between the information it takes to make money and the wisdom to really live a good life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he says the beginning of wisdom is fearing God. And that fear of God is having a healthy respect and saying, God, your ways are the right ways. Your words are the right words. And I'm going to live your way. The fact that he had fear for God caused him to live God's way and even caught the devil's attention. And that's why all of this was happening in the first place, was because he had the fear of God. God taught him to live this way. The fear of God taught him wisdom. And so the best way to live is having a healthy respect for God. I think a lot of times what we do is we want God, it's not a healthy respect for God. We want God to be our good luck charm, and we want him to bless what we plan to do.
Right.
But I think what Job is sending the message here is in spite of all the wisdom and all the knowledge that we have, we're not truly wise people unless we go God's way.
Yeah. And, all these scriptures pop up into your mind, like his ways are higher than our ways. Mm-hmm. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. Mm-hmm. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. Mm-hmm. Right. So just the indicators that, no matter how wise we think we are, no matter how much we think we figured things out, God's wisdom is the source of all wisdom.
Yep.
And there's a little graph here at the end of the Life Application Study Bible, and it says, where can wisdom be found? I think it's interesting. It points out Job's 3 friends.
Oh, yeah. That's really cool.
With those weird names, right? What is it? Eliphaz?
Mm-hmm.
Bildad, and Zophar. And Eliphaz says, wisdom can be learned by observing and experienced life. That's it. That recaps sort of what he says. Mm-hmm. Bildad says wisdom is inherited from the past, right? Mm-hmm. From history, you could learn from wisdom.
Yeah.
Zophar claims that wisdom belongs to the wise. In other words, it's just gifted. But then Job is the one that says God is the source of wisdom. Isn't that cool? Mm-hmm. So if you were to summarize sort of what these 3 friends, believe, it's a really good lesson. You could take that and just have a lesson on friends.
Absolutely.
Hang around with those who are going to point you in the right direction.
Yeah.
So I met with a wedding couple yesterday, and I prayed, and I always pray sort of the same thing. I say, bless them financially, take care of them, provide, bless them, spiritually, surround them with people that will point them in the right direction, and then bless them relationally, put the right people in their lives. And they always, at the end, they always just say, thank you for that, because it's just one of those, prayers that say like, wow, that's, praying that God would watch over us and all these different things.
In every facet.
And, but whenever I think of that, that's what I think of. When I'm praying, I think surround this couple or surround this person with the right kind of people that will both encourage them emotionally and then also spiritually. And, this is what Job has discovered. Like, these are good friends.
Yeah.
But not when it comes down.
They're looking for wisdom in less superior places.
Yeah,
you can pick up good things from living life.
Yeah,
you can. That's a hard way to gain wisdom, by the way.
Yes,
that means you touch the hot stove to find out it's hot. Yes. Now you have some wisdom about it. That's a hard way to live.
Yes,
you can learn from the past, right? Mm-hmm. History it will teach us. That's incredibly important. You can learn from other wise people,
right?
But all of those are less superior to the fact that God is the source of wisdom, and we can learn from God without having to go only with those other paths.
Yeah,
right?
And it's also worth noting that 3 friends weren't able to bring Job down. Right. So Job is stronger than not 1, not 2, but 3 influences.
Yep.
And by the way, that's pretty rare.
Yeah.
Because if you hang with people that are going to drag you, if you're the one who's setting the bar spiritually, and you hang out with 3 good friends, oftentimes, or more than not, you're going to be the one that's dragged down.
Yeah. So Solomon, to end things, Solomon tells us wisdom is the principal thing. So with all of your getting, get wisdom and sell it not.
That's right.
That's what he says. And then James tells us if anybody lacks wisdom, let them ask from God, who gives generously. Right. And so wisdom is God's word. The fact that you're listening and spending a little bit of time every day listening to God's word, I think that's incredibly important. You just take it in, you're filling your reservoir of wisdom. Mm-hmm. And then at the right time, God will pull those things out. So good job.
That's awesome. Well, that is a great place to end. And hopefully we will see you next time on the Bible Guys.